Okay, let's discuss the following, which is more dumbfuckery from Chris Whitcomb, because he asked people to look into a black SUV. So we're going to be playing this, and I'm going to be stopping it and showing clips. So let's get started.
We see it on the Linda Lane video. It pulls, backs out, drives away, and there's one thing very unusual about it. It's very loud. You look at all the other hours and hours and hours of video, it's much louder than any other vehicle. Right. The sound signature, okay?
Distinctive, yeah.
So you can tell, like, I think it's a Ford Expedition, or I haven't gotten into great detail, but it would be easy to figure out what this thing is, right? Backs out, drives down. Then we see it go by 10, 15, 20 seconds later, whatever it is. We see it go by 1112. You hear the sound signature, you see it's the same vehicle, it drives down, turns right, and goes and disappears to the right, just like the white car, right?
Yeah.
But the white car turned left and went up to Willenta, and you can see the headlights going back up the other way. You go back to the dumpster video, and you can see that vehicle going Taylor Road. It goes, so you see it on 3 different videos. If you follow the video out.
Okay, so here's that video of the car that's leaving at 4:22 a.m.
Three minutes later, 3.5 minutes later, it comes back, and you see it come back down Taylor Road. You see it in the 1112 video, turn left, come back up the hill toward the house. But instead of going back up to its parking spot in front of the Linda Lane camera where we saw it, it stops. And it stops behind the field of view for the 112 camera.
Right.
So you can't tell visually where it is, but it's so loud, and it has a distinctive signature at 4:27, 4:29 in the morning. You can tell that it stops because it's rumbling, and then when it takes off under load, it gets louder. So it sounds like it's maybe turning around or something. But you can hear the engine. I'm not going to describe it; everybody can listen to it. And then it stops, and the dog's going nuts. And then it stops, and then there's a little bit of a quiet, and then it sounds like a door closing. That's what it sounds like to me.
So here's the footage of a vehicle that returns about 4:30, and it is not the same vehicle as the one that left at 4:22.
So you go, okay, so this thing took off and it came back. It left several minutes after the white car. It came back 3.5 minutes later. Where did it go? At 4:30 in the morning. Why did it go up Taylor Road and come back? And why would it stop in front of the house? And why would it park in front of the house? And why would they get out and close the door? The engine clearly shuts down. Clearly. Yeah. So they clearly parked there. I'm going to say this is what happened. You see one vehicle leave. You see that vehicle on 3 different cameras: Linda Lane, 1112, and a dumpster video. You see it come back 3.5, 4 minutes later. The time's going to be off, but very close. Comes back, and the engine stops based on the sound in direct proximity between the back of 1112 and I'm saying the parking lot or right in front of 1122. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
at 4:30. That's at 4:30 in the morning. Here's where it gets kind of crazy. That vehicle was parked in a specific spot that you can see in the Linda Lane video. It comes back 2 hours later at 6:30 in the morning, and it parks in the original parking spot. And somebody gets out of the driver's side door without the backpack, and walks back the way they came in front of what's that? What are those apartments right there in the front? It's there's no door. There's no door.
There's the whites and the queens, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah.
There's no door on that side of the road. So they walk out
yes.
and they walk down that road. So they walk down the road back toward 1122. If they were going into that building has no door.
And here is footage of that vehicle coming back a little after 6:30 a.m. So, the vehicle that leaves at 4:22 is not the same vehicle that comes back around 4:30. We know this because of interviews that the police did, and I will get to those in a minute. But also, the vehicle that comes back at around 6:30, I don't know for sure if that's the vehicle that left at 4:22. I'm thinking it might be just because of one of the interviews, but the thing is, Whitcomb's trying to say based on noises and sounds, but when you listen, if you listen to those clips, you can't tell. The vehicles all sound different, but even the same cameras, the noises sound different depending on the time, etc. So you can't definitively say that that's all the same vehicle, but we know from interviews that it's two different vehicles at least. Now, the other thing he said is that there's no doors on that side of the brown apartments. Yes, there are. And that person was walking to their apartment and their door is on the side. He claimed there wasn't a door on. So let's look at that. So this is the side of the building that the woman that got out of the car around 6:30 was walking to. This faces towards Taylor Avenue. And then just for reference, you can see the walkway in between the two buildings, which would be on the back side of the building she's in. But you can see there are doors on all sides of the brown apartments. So he is wrong about being no door where the person was walking to. Now, remember, I told you we knew there was at least two different vehicles because they interviewed the people driving two of those. So this is the interview with the guy that you see coming back around 4:30 a.m. So it says he is a blank at the University of Idaho studying blank and currently lives at blank in Moscow, Idaho. On November 13th, 2022, he returned home at about 4:30 a.m. after playing video games at his fraternity house, which he identified as blank, later identified as blank. He parked his blank on blank directly to the east of 1122 King Road. Well, where he parked was that side street that's between the Browns and the house. So unlike what Whitcomb was trying to say, that the car parked at 1122, it did not. It parked on the side street. So, and then it says after he returned home, he took his dog out to relieve itself about 4:50 to 5 a.m., walking to the dead-end portion directly to the south of 1122 King. So he is not who had left at 4:22. He had come from his fraternity house. So he wasn't the one leaving the Browns at 4:22. He returned from his fraternity house at 4:30 a.m. Now, I personally believe he is the SUV that you see along here. It's not this gray one, because that gray one comes back around 9:30 a.m. I believe it's this red one right here. Because on the footage, it's hard to tell the color of a vehicle, but I believe it's that red SUV right there. It's parked right there along the side where he said he parked. Now, of course, I could be wrong that that's his red SUV, but we know he parked on the side street. Now, we know the SUV that came back at 6:30 belonged to the woman in this interview.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm Jason with Moscow Police. I'm sure you've noticed all the hustle and bustle down the way here.
Yeah, a little bit. What's up?
Sure. Just trying to kind of talk to some of the folks around the area, see if we can establish Anything that seemed out of the ordinary? Or were you here all night?
No, I actually work overnight. So
Oh, you do? Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Do you recall what time you got home?
I got home at 6:30.
6:30. Gotcha. Drove home, walked home.
I drove home.
Gotcha.
So she got back around 6:30. And look, her door is on the side of the building that Whitcomb claimed there was no doors. Now, we still don't know the vehicle leaving at 4:22 from that parking lot, the same one that she had parked in at 6:30. But we think it might be her because they did a follow-up interview with her. Let's look at that interview. So on December 2nd, they followed up with her again. Tyson Barrett and one of the other officers met with her, and it said that she was parked in front of apartment, blah, blah, blah. Surveillance video footage on November 13th, retrieved from blank, captured an SUV-type vehicle resembling a blank blank, leaving the parking lot east of blank around 4:24 a.m., and an SUV-type vehicle resembling blank returning to the parking spot around 6:30 a.m. Blank identified the blank as hers. She said she worked overnights at blank from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. She said she worked the night of November 12th and would have returned home the morning of November 13th between 6:30 and 7. Well, we know from her other interview she said she returned about 6:30, and that's when we see that car coming back. She said it was possible she parked in the lot east of blank that morning, but that she usually parked in front of her apartment. Blank said it was possible she came home during her work shift to check on her cats, but she could not recall. And then she talks about the King Roadhouse. So was that her? It's very possible. It's very possible that she had left for her shift, came back partway through it to check on her cats, left, and then came back at 6:30. We know for sure that was her coming back at 6:30. It's just the 422 is still kind of iffy. But I find it interesting that Christopher Whitcomb wrote a whole ass book about this case, but didn't know about these two interviews that helped sort out that there was two different SUVs. A guy coming home at 4:30 that parked on the side street, and a woman coming home at 6:30 that parked in the lot. Like, how do you not go through all the interviews before you write a book? And I also need to leave this here because this just had me laughing.
It leaves, it's gone for 5 minutes, comes back, parks proximal to the house, and stays there until you follow that video out, the Linda Lane video out to 6:30, and that vehicle comes back and parks its original parking spot, and the driver gets out, walks behind it, and walks back down toward the house. And I'm not trying to load that by saying, you know, they're walking back to the house. I'm saying there's nothing else in between. There's no doors there. There are no residences there. So they're walking in that back in that general direction.
So I played that just because it makes me laugh so much, because does that guy really lack that much critical thinking skills? I mean, seriously, I know he was ex-FBI, but he was in a hostage rescue unit that botched Ruby Ridge and Waco. So just keep that in mind. Not the best track record. But he honestly thinks that the SUV left at 4:22, circled around the neighborhood, came back at 4:30, parked near the house, and then waited until 6:30 and pulled back into the parking lot that it originally was in. Really? Really. And the other thing to note is he thinks it's the same vehicle, swears by the sounds, everything, that it's the same vehicle. But yet if you try to say that the white car circling is inmate 163214's, the one seen circling several times on the 1112 camera, they'll tell you no, that there's no way to tell that that's his car. So he can tell that this is the same SUV all these times, but no, it can't be inmate 163214's car all those times. Make that make sense. Make it make sense. And we do know that it's at least two separate SUVs because of the interviews that were done. And let's play the next clip.
And I believe that anybody that ascribes to the theory that the second floor was altered and that there's very unusual things about a potential cleanup, one might argue, where did all that bloody stuff go? Where did all the clothes go? Where did all the towels go? Where did all the stuff used to clean the floor, if that happened? Where did that all go? And I think that's one thing that nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has ever looked into, except, I know everybody's screaming at me. Well, you know, everybody knows this. What people have talked about, including Ann Taylor sent investigators to talk to those witnesses who told police that they heard the loud exhaust at 4:20. And you know what I'm talking about, the guy that was outside working on his car, I think, whatever. He heard it, saw it, whatever else. And I think there's news footage. I think a camera crew went out there and they record an SUV that was thought to be that vehicle that was still parked there the next day. and it's not the same vehicle. It's a different vehicle. So even though I think many people, true crime sleuths out there, let me ask you, I think even though you think you know about that SUV, I believe somebody needs to look into that in great detail. And if you need help, I have a spreadsheet that shows every vehicle registered to an Idaho State student at the time. So somebody with good data mining skills could probably figure out what that is. Am I saying they're involved? No. Am I saying we should find out what's going on? I think that's.
Well, they should have been questioned at least.
Somebody should have tracked down that vehicle.
I mean, they're
really
better
who
seen
are
it.
you?
Yeah.
Who are you and what did you do?
Excuse me? Excuse me? So you know about the one interview of the guy that saw an SUV, but you knew about that interview, but you didn't know about the interviews with the people that came back at 6:30 and at 4:30? Like, how can you say that it wasn't ever looked into when there's interviews on file? But also you admitted that Ann Taylor sent people out also. So your contradictions are crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then trying to say, well, we don't think they're involved, and trying to implicate them as possibly being people that helped with a cleanup, which there was no cleanup. I get that Brent Topsy-Turvy is trying to claim there was a cleanup, but you honestly believe that they're going to clean up a blood spot here, but leave like 50 over here? What kind of cleanup is that? Like, use your brain. Use your brain. It's just astounding that this guy wrote a book and didn't even read all these interviews. Like, I just can't. So hopefully this was helpful. He asked for the true crime community to dig into the SUV. So I did. I had already done some videos on these SUVs before, by the way, because people kept ignoring those interviews. Obviously, he ignored the interviews as well with the two people. Imagine that. Do better.